It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. I'm here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. You can email me as well, randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. We start in San Francisco, where the unthinkable happened. A serial shoplifter was convicted by a jury of their peers in a trial. It actually happened. The story is crazy. The woman who was convicted is crazier. Let's go to this report from KGO.
I don't think I should be on trial for anything right now.
Those are the words from the serial shoplifter Aziza Graves and what she told I-Team reporter Dan Noyes 2 months ago.
And now a jury has found her guilty, Dan, on 53 counts connected to more than a year of shoplifting at the Stonestown Target. And
53 counts of shoplifting. It totaled up to $60,000 of stuff she stole over the course of a year from a Walgreens and a Target. If you're ever wondering why the socks are locked up at Target, it's because of crap like this.
How ghetto does it look that they have to lock up the socks?
Stonestown Target and other San Francisco stores.
And Dan is here with the latest on this case. We know you've been following this from quite some time now, Dan.
Well, Julian and Amma, from dozens of trips to that Target, she stole more than $60,000 worth of merchandise. Late today, I obtained video evidence from the court file. For the first time, you're going to see surveillance of Aziza Graves breaking the law.
Now, I know this is radio, so you can't see the surveillance footage. She steals something. There, you saw the footage.
It's September 23rd, 2021, just after noon on a Thursday, and there's Aziza Graves at the Stonestown Target loading her cart with laundry detergent. Investigators told ABC7 the Graves would often steal jugs of detergent that can easily be sold in San Francisco's illegal night markets at UN Plaza.
She's not going to use the detergent. She's going to sell it for cash in the illegal night markets that are all over San Francisco that nobody can do anything about because illegal night markets are no longer a criminal problem. They're a public health problem.
District Attorney Brooke Jenkins told me this afternoon that video and dozens more were crucial to convincing the jury to getting that guilty verdict.
It appears that those jurors were really heavily relying on being able to see what items she was purchased or pretending to purchase, how she was operating at the self-checkout and really being able to see the conduct for themselves.
The jury found Graves guilty of 1 count of grand theft, 52 counts of petty theft. Jenkins believes attitudes in the city are changing.
I mean, usually these cases get dismissed by the judge or the jury doesn't want to convict them because they feel sorry for them. San Francisco is turning the corner. Los Angeles, we're not there yet.
People should take the message that San Franciscans are going to make sure that there's accountability in our city again for this type of crime. No longer do they...
Well, let's wait till the sentencing, Brooke. Don't get too excited.
No longer do they view it as low-level crime that doesn't matter, that when we provide adequate evidence to them, that they will convict.
Can I talk to you about your case at some point?
At some point, I'd be willing to talk about it with you, for sure.
Okay, great.
I began investigating her case last year. In an email to me, Graves explained she was using this.
Oh, yeah, these shoplifting incidents are from 2021. She got arrested in 2022, and she finally went on trial in 2024. The criminal justice system, she moves slow.
I began investigating her case last year. In an email to me, Graves explained she was using the self-checkout at a Safeway, and the machine said payment complete after putting in just 1 cent.
Oh, it gets weirder.
I had to figure out how 1 cent could equal 100%. She sent me this convoluted tabulation that concludes the actual value of what we call a penny is 0.000001 credits or $100 million.
What? Let's hear that again.
She sent me this convoluted tabulation that concludes the actual value of what we call a penny is 0.000001 credits or $100 million.
That is some fancy math.
Graves wrote, when she told the Safeway staff they said you are stealing and kicked me out, Target was next. I went to Target every single day for about a year before I was arrested.
Yeah. Turns out Target is totally fine with your nonsensical, I put a penny in and I could buy all the groceries I want because a penny equals $100 million. Oh, my.
At trial, Graves insisted she had no mental health issues, but her public defender, Scott Grant, argued she had a delusion.
How bad is it when your public defender is trying to say, go with the insanity? What you're telling me is you're insane. And she says, no, I'm not insane. These pennies are worth millions.
That she actually believed she had paid in full with that penny or a nickel. Graves is scheduled to be...
A nickel? That's $500 million to her.
Graves is scheduled to be sentenced later this month. She faces 3.5 years in custody. She could get probation, a partial or the full sentence in custody, or mental health rehabilitation.
I feel like it's going to be the former or the latter. The ones in the middle here, let's see, what are our options?
3.5 years in custody.
That's the max, but what are our actual options before us when she goes for sentencing for 53 counts of shoplifting on video?
She could get probation, a partial or the full sentence in custody, or mental health rehabilitation.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be A or C. The prison time, I don't think so, because you got to remember, in the world of AB 109, Proposition 47 and Proposition 57, this is still, even though one of these is a felony, grand theft, whatever she stole that day was quite a bit, it's a non-violent crime. We do not put non-violent people in prison. It does not happen. Not even to set an example. It will not happen. There was a case in Riverside County, the snake burglar. This guy would slither around like a sneaky little snake and slither into people's homes and steal and steal and steal. He got arrested and charged on 70 crimes. They could prove 54 of them. He pled guilty and did not spend a day in prison. Just the time served while he was awaiting trial. That's it. Because we do not put nonviolent criminals in prison. A lot of things are going to have to change before that changes, and I don't see that changing anytime soon, even though it's outrageous.
There's pretty wide latitude here for what the judge can do, and so we are prepared to, we will be prepared to make a recommendation as to what we believe is appropriate, but it'll ultimately be up to the judge.
And typically, the judges in San Francisco have not been playing ball with Brooke Jenkins, who's doing everything she can. Having a district attorney who wants to do the job makes a huge difference. And San Francisco is much better for having her than Chesa Boudin before her or George Gascon before her.
The jury acquitted Graves on...
Before him. Excuse me. I didn't mean to misgender Chesa Boudin.
The jury acquitted Graves on one count that had no surveillance video. The public defender's office...
You couldn't have taken the prosecutor's word for it? It's okay. 53 counts, 54 counts. We're splitting hairs here.
The public defender's office declined to comment on the verdict or directly on this case, but released a statement that says, in part, while we don't condone stealing, we cannot condone the ongoing surge of public resources being funneled into carceral punishment. I'm posting their full statement at abc7news.com.
That's why you got to be wary when someone's running for judge and their experience comes from the public defender's office. But okay. Somebody was caught. It took 2 years to try them. They're finally convicted. Sentencing might be a little prison time. Most likely it's probation or mental health counseling because this woman claims to believe that 1 penny is actually worth 1/100th of a credit, which means it's worth $100 million, whatever that means. But there is a common denominator in this case, and that she was able to commit a year's worth of shoplifting at Target through the self-checkout counter. And the self-checkout counter is now something that is being debated in Sacramento because if you have no self-checkout counter or you regulate that a self-checkout counter has to have an employee watching it at all times, could that, should that, would that cut down on theft? Well, that is before us now. It is a brand new bill that is making its way through the state Senate, then the Assembly, then Gavin Newsom, and it would change the way that whether it's a retail store or a grocery store, the way they deal with self-checkout counters. And it might regulate them out of existence, which you may think is a good thing, you may think is a bad thing. I'm kind of split. When I need to go into a store and buy just one thing, it can be fairly convenient, except those things are a pain in the butt to operate, and it is fairly obvious that there is never enough people watching the self-checkout stands at the local Ralphs, which I try not to frequent because I am not a Kroger fan. They jacked up their prices higher than everybody else, and we all know it. They're just as expensive as Gelson's now. And that didn't make any sense to me. But they have, at this local Ralph's, they've got 6 self-checkout stands on one side of the store, 6 on the other side of the store. They've got one employee who's supposed to watch all 6. And that one employee is usually trying to help the old woman figure out how to type in the produce codes. So the other 5 are pretty much nobody's paying attention to what's going on. And I have seen plenty of shoplifting going on in that store. You have some establishments like Targets, like Walmart's, where you have 10 of these things back to back to back and nobody's watching them. So would regulating that an employee has to be there make sense? Would regulating that an employee has to be there defeat the whole purpose to the store's perspective of having a self-checkout counter? And they would just have to say, well, we'll just have a whole bunch more regular checkout counters. This is what's being debated. Let's hear all about it, the pros and the cons, and then we'll get your opinion on this. Would getting rid of self-checkout counters cut down on all the stealing? Let's find out. Here's another report from the excellent people at KGO.
Supporters pushing for a bill that would change regulations that could result in stores removing their self-checkout service. Some stores in California are already changing their policies because of rampant theft. ABC 7 News reporter Gloria Rodriguez joins us live here with the story. Gloria?
Good morning, Kristen. Advocates say this is a common sense law, but opponents say it'll hurt businesses.
You could say that about every single thing that is purported in Sacramento.
When we have more workers in stores, theft is decreased.
This morning,
if there are more eyes, you could argue that there are more people that would look down upon somebody stealing, but there's also a whole bunch of rules and regulations that some are statewide, some are store-wide, where we don't want anyone going after any thieves. But if you have controlled entrances and controlled exits, and you have to take your items to a cashier to actually check out, could that be the difference? I don't know.
This morning, advocates had a virtual news conference promoting a new bill that would regulate self-checkouts. Supporters say it cut down on thefts in California stores and boost employment.
Well, yes, because, for instance, that Ralph's that I talked about that has the 6 checkout counters on one side and the 6 self-checkout counters on the other side, they would need to have 3 employees on each side at all times monitoring. Because the way this bill would work is for every 2 self-checkouts, you got to have 1 employee. So if you're at Target and you get that line of 10, that's 5 employees. And if you're going to have that many employees, why have the self-checkout to begin with? Why not just open all the lanes?
We must protect jobs and ensure worker safety.
Democratic Senator.
It is kind of irritating that you wonder, like, even with the current system as it is, you've got the one person watching the 6 self-checkout counters. If they just went in the regular line and opened another line, wouldn't that speed everything up? I don't know. But again, if you just have to go by one thing, it's very convenient.
Democratic Senator Lola Smallwood Cuevas introduced the bill.
1446 is essential to making sure that we are addressing all of the complexity of this issue of retail theft, and most importantly, putting workers and consumers first.
If passed, grocery and pharmacy...
Oh, wow. I didn't know this. Lola Smallwood Cuevas, she's local. She's the state senator for the Mid-Wilshire area and Culver City and Ladera Heights. Look at that. She's our local state senator coming up with this killing the self-checkout bill.
As grocery and pharmacy retailers would need a dedicated employee for every 2 self-checkout stations. If stores fail to meet the requirements, they must close self-checkouts. Leticia Acosta says she manages the self-checkout area at the Lucky Supermarket in Pinole and that she got attacked when she reported theft.
Because of this incident, I am terrified to report any incidents of theft.
And that's why the crime numbers are down.
This bill will ensure that grocery stores are properly staffed.
But organizations, including the California Retailers Association, have come out against the proposed legislation.
Some places are choosing to close down self-checkout. And I think that stores should have the ability to make that decision. I don't know that the state needs to mandate that.
Fair point. But if this is something that could cut down on all the thieving, then why wouldn't you be in support of it? Oh, because you'd have to hire more humans instead of the self-checkout stand. I can see how there's an issue there.
And the California Retailers Association adds that they need to hold criminals accountable and go after repeat offenders.
Well, there's also that, but good luck doing that. Unfortunately, if both avenues are ways that we can cut down on the stealing, one is increasing the penalties and actually keeping these people in prison, and the other one is shutting down the self-checkout stands. One of those is actually realistic in the state of California. One of those makes more sense, but that one's not going to happen. What will happen is we'll ban the self-checkout or de facto ban the self-checkout, because if it's one employee for every 2 checkout stands, what are you doing? By the way, it's so weird. They have these now at my local Gelson's. I shop at Gelson's, and I go to the one in Encino. Go there on a Sunday morning. I'm like the only person there at 7:30 a.m. I love having my weekly conversation with my cashier, Yolanda. She's a lovely person. Love sharing my recipes with the butcher, with everybody else. And then I see the self-checkout counter. I'm like, that does not speak Gelson's at all. There's no human connection with that. It's a little weird.
To deter retail theft in the first place, the California Chamber of Commerce also is coming out against the bill, saying it would put unnecessary restrictions on businesses and would not result in less theft. Live in the studio, Gloria Rodriguez, ABC 7 News.
So there you have it. Let's recap. A woman was finally convicted after over a year of shoplifting in San Francisco. She stole from Safeway. She stole from Target. There were 52 documented instances on video. She stole over $60,000. She's finally been convicted, but because of current state law and the way that we treat prisons, she'll most likely face probation or mental health treatment because she's a little kooky. In response to this and all the other incidents, what's before Sacramento? A bill that would regulate self-checkout counters out of existence, because those 54 incidents of stealing, they all happen at the self-checkout counter. So I want to know how you feel about this at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Do you think getting rid of the self-checkout counters is going to cut down on the thieving? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. There are definitely some arguments that it makes sense. For instance, what's a store that does not have self-checkout that you do not hear about shoplifting from? Costco. Costco has one way in, you got to have a membership. One way out, you got to show them the receipt. They got to highlight it, get you out of there. And they do not, there's no way you could self-checkout because the items are all massive. Do you think getting rid of self-checkout stands will cut down on shoplifting? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. I want to talk to you. I want to know how you feel about this. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Do you think getting rid of self-checkout stands will cut down on all the thieving? 800-222-KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. 800-222-KABC is the telephone number. Do you think getting rid of self-checkouts will cut down on all the thieving? That's what's before the state legislature, a bill that would essentially regulate self-checkouts out of existence because you need one employee for every 2 self-checkout stands. They say that is why there's all the thieving going on. And in an era where even if somebody gets convicted of 53 counts of shoplifting and they're not likely to face prison time, is this the road we should go down on? So that's what I want to hear from you, 800-222-KABC. Do you think getting rid of self-checkout stands will cut down on the shoplifting? 800-222-KABC. I was informed during the break from our board op Art that turns out Costco does have self-checkout stands at some locations, and apparently they're a massive pain in the ass. Let's start with Alexis in West Covina. Alexis, hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Am I supposed to say something right now?
Yes, you're on the radio. You're live.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I do believe that it will cut down on shoplifting by eliminating self-checkouts, but I don't think that the state should be the one to tell the stores to do that because that will be an enormous expense for them. they'll have to hire more checkers, and they'll have to take out their self-checkouts and put their check stands back in, which they all eliminated. So that's a big expense, and that's going to put food prices up higher. But I do think that it's really easy to steal from the self-checkouts. So,
it's so easy, and there are so many different ways to do it. I mean, there's never enough people looking. So, but I totally understand what you're saying there. It will definitely increase costs because either way, they're going to have to hire more people, or they're going to have to bring back all the regular checkout stands. But the thing that's interesting is if the whole point was to save money by putting the self-checkout stands, but they're losing all that money they're saving because everyone's stealing, did they really save any money to begin with?
Right. Like, who knows if are they losing more money than they supposedly would have saved? Or I don't know which way it goes. But I don't think that the state should tell the stores to do that. I think that the stores should be able to see if they're losing too much, and that they should be able to, make that decision on their own.
I think you make a great point. Alexis, thanks so much for calling in. Call again soon. We love talking to you. 800-222-KABC. Do you think getting rid of the self-checkout stands will cut down on shoplifting? That's what the state legislature is debating right now. 800-222-KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. I'm here every day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC. Your emails as well, randykabc@gmail.com. A serial shoplifter was finally convicted in Northern California. 53 incidents of stealing from a Target over the course of a year, $60,000. She will most likely face probation, mental health treatment, or maybe 3.5 years in prison. Sacramento's trying to figure out a different way to approach this problem. What do they want to do? They want to regulate self-checkout stands out of existence. They want to have one employee for every 2 self-checkout stands. That is a bill that is going through the legislature right now. Do you think getting rid of self-checkout stands will cut down on the shoplifting? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. We got a whole bunch of phone calls. Thanks everyone for being on hold. I'm going to get to everybody. Let's go to Randy in Oxnard. Randy, hello.
Hey, Randy. It's a member of the Fellowship of International Randys.
Oh, Randy. I love Randys. Randys are the best.
I know it's a great name. Hey, great fan of your show and your work with John as well. My opinion, in brief, is until we replace DAs that refuse to do their job, we're kind of piddling around at the edges of the problem. I mean, Costco has the solution. You check everybody at the door. Even with self-checkout, which they don't do very well, they manage to keep their theft down to a bare minimum, and that's probably the secret. Just some employees at the exits, saying, show me your receipt.
I know. How difficult would that be? They had a Safeway in Northern California where they were trying a locked door that the door wouldn't open for you to leave unless you inserted your receipt. But that ended up not working out for them. Randy, thanks so much for the call. Love the name. Appreciate it. Although I only consider myself an honorary member of the Randy Club because Randy's not my real name. It's actually Ryan. But, I've been Randy Wang for 17 years, so we're just going to stick with it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Let's go to Daniel in Jurupa Valley. Daniel, hello.
Hi. No, I like the self-checkout because sometimes you're only buying like 1 or 2 items, and you don't want to wait in line for like so many people with a whole shopping cart full. And actually, the solution to this is like in other countries like Singapore or Malaysia, they have heavily guarded store, high-powered firearms standing in front. And when they caught somebody, they flogged them, they beat them right in public. So even if you are mentally ill, you know what is pain, and you're gonna learn not to steal again. That's a good solution.
So we got to do what they've been doing in Singapore and start caning people. All right. I think that's one idea. Daniel, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. You remember that story in the 90s? Michael Fay, The guy that got caned in Singapore for vandalizing cars and stealing road signs? Maybe that's the way we got to go. You don't hear of a lot of shoplifting in Singapore now, do you? 800-222-KABC. Brendan in Santa Clarita. Brendan, hello.
Hey, Randy, or Ryan, I should say. Sounds to me like the state is concerned that the shoplifting thieves are cutting into the government thievery. Maybe they're getting less sales tax because of all this, and trying to get that money back.
Oh, you are so right. And in fact, Brandon, before the show, I listened to the entire debate on this bill at the State Senate committee hearing, and they literally said just that this is cutting into the sales tax revenue that we're supposed to be getting because people should be paying taxes on those things that they're stealing. So you're totally right. They have a vested interest into making sure that the stealing stops, but they're not going to go all the way with that, are they?
Yeah, otherwise, why would they let them go so easily?
I think that's a great point. Thanks so much for the call, Brendan. Appreciate it. I agree. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. Even with all the reforms we're talking about, reforming Prop 47, I feel like it is so out of control and so far to the other direction. Actually getting prison time for these sentences is going to be tough. Even when you have a DA that wants to do the job. And in San Francisco, they have that. Brooke Jenkins successfully got a conviction for the woman that stole $60,000 worth of stuff over 53 incidents. But even then, the prison time will be minimal to non-existent. 800-222-KABC. Do you think getting rid of self-checkout counters will cut down on all the shoplifting? 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Marco in Whittier. Marco, hello.
Hey, Randy. This is so funny at so many different levels. The state is trying to tell a business how to run their business to help them not take a loss. Well, this wasn't an issue before Proposition 47. And the people that are going to shoplift in big amounts, they're just going to walk out. They don't need to pretend they're at the checkout stand. So, no, it's another routine where the state's acting out what they wish could happen without their stupidity getting involved. But anyway, thank you.
So you think even if they got rid of this, even if they got rid of the self-checkout stands, you're still going to have criminals playing supermarket sweep, running out of there with a shopping cart full of crap they didn't pay for.
Yeah, those are the ones that are walking out with big amounts. The other ones are taking $10 here, $10 there. Obviously, it's bad, but the state's just acting stupid, just like all the morons that are voted in there.
Well, there you go. Marco, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. In the meantime, get ready for everything, including socks, to be behind lock and key.
How ghetto does it look that they have to lock up the socks?
You know, I went to Ralph's on Sunday. Again, I don't try to go there, but I needed to get a birthday card and a Mother's Day card and a gift card. And they lock up the Amazon gift cards. I don't even know how you can activate one of those unless you have it scanned at the checkout counter. But now you got to go ask someone under lock and key to take the Amazon checkout card. Let's go to Kelly in the Valley. Kelly, hello.
Hey, how's it going, Randy? So if you get rid of self-checkout lanes, it won't change a thing. And I'll tell you why. Because a lot of shoplifting happens at stores that have no self-checkout, including clothing stores, including like Sephora, Ulta. It happens across the board. The only thing that's going to change this is changing Prop 47 and stores to stop having a hands-off policy. And just so you know, shoplifting and what's called Estes robberies also happen at Costco, too. They're not exempt.
That is good to know. Good information. You got a great point. Thanks for the call, Kelly. Now, I'll tell you one thing. There are a lot of different ways that we're thinking of tinkering with or getting rid of major sections of Prop 47 this year. And I am in full support of those. However, because Prop 47 was a voter initiative, we can undo it at the ballot box. The thing that wasn't a voter initiative is AB 109, the prison realignment. And as long as that stands, and the only way we're getting rid of that is with a California legislature that wants to get rid of it, a governor that wants to get rid of it, even if somebody got sentenced and we gave them the maximum possible time, if it's considered a nonviolent crime like stealing, like shoplifting is, they get kicked down out of the prisons to the local jails. The local jails are all overcrowded. So what happens? You just get out. And it's going to take a lot of work to get rid of that. Getting rid of 47 is the first step, but it is not the end-all, beat-all. But it's better than nothing. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Bill in San Diego. Bill, hello.
Yeah, hey, that guy made a good comment about Costco. I think they have a good system because they check your receipt, how many items on the receipt versus what you got. I think the worst case would be the grocery stores because they don't even, the self-check, I don't see them even looking at you. So if you wanted to steal a lot of groceries, I think you could. I noticed last thing is mentioned is at Home Depot, the local store here, there's no more cashier ones. Everyone is self-checkout. And they have 2 people behind you watching 8 stations. So there could be some things going on there, and that's fairly recent with Home Depot.
I have noticed that at my local Home Depot, too. It's all self-checkout. They have one person watching a couple of different stands, but it would be very easy to run out there with a whole bunch of stuff. Bill, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. The phone number is 800-222-KABC. The California Legislature is thinking of regulating self-checkout lanes to almost non-existence. They want to pass a bill that says you have to have 1 employee for every 2 self-checkout stands. And if you're going to do that, you might as well just have a whole bunch of full-blown cashiers.
If the cashier is dummy.
Cashier is not a dummy, but I love that drop. Do you think getting rid of the self-checkout lanes is going to cut down on shoplifting? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. Back to your phone calls in just a second. If you'd like to email us, you can do so at randykabc@gmail.com. AJ writes in about the self-checkout. If this passes, Gavin Newsom is going to go to other states and tell them, we don't need more law enforcement. We don't need to arrest and prosecute thieves. We just need more cashiers. Tom writes in and says there's no alcohol at the Costco self-checkout stands, so they're useless. And I wonder, did installation of self-checkout stands cause grocery stores to roll back prices with all the money they saved? Why, no, it did not. Hey, I got a special prize for you. This is really cool. Get ready. 790 KABC welcomes Heroes, a video game symphony featuring music from some of the gaming industry's most iconic titles, from Final Fantasy to Metal Gear Solid. It's all happening at the Pantages Theater in Hollywood, one of my all-time favorite venues, on July 6th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Nederlander Concerts. Good luck dialing. More of your calls in minutes right here on the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. Let's get back to the phones. Ray and El Segundo. Ray, hello.
How you doing?
Doing great.
There was a technology. Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Hello?
You're on the air.
There was technology company back around 2000 called Alien Technology, and they did what's called an RFID tag on. So you'd basically have a wireless barcode on each product, and you'd be able to track it out the door. But all these privacy-concerned people go, "Oh, that'd be horrible! That'd be horrible." Then the iPhone came out, and privacy's gone. But that would have been an interesting technology. But if stores really thought that the self-checkout was a problem, they would quit doing it. Whatever happened to free markets? And people
there is that. Some stores are going in that direction, but some stores are sticking to the self-checkout scans. There's 10 of them, and let the stealing commence. Let's go to Tanya in L.A. Tanya, hello.
Hi there. Basically, it's not going to make a difference. Many of the thefts are some of the employees. They don't treat a lot of these employees correctly. They overwork them, underpay them. Many of them are struggling. Doesn't give a reason, but one way or another, there's going to be theft. Businesses have to either make them part of a family so everybody takes responsibility for their job and say, listen, if you want your company, this is what you have to do, or else give it up and just realize that they're going to have theft.
There you go. Thanks for the call, Tanya. Appreciate it. One of the people that was supporting this bill did say at the state Senate hearing, well, this is going to get at the root causes of stealing and shoplifting because there's going to be more jobs. Okay, then. I thought unemployment was at record lows. Let's go to Chris in Long Beach. Chris, you got 30 seconds.
Hey, I think you and John Phillips should start a think tank of local citizens to take care of this. And AB, was it 709 or 5? I can't remember which AB it was. The one that
AB 109.
Local jail. 109. Thank you. Yeah, I think we need to, because it's also related to the addiction. We need to work out where are these people going to go, how to get them jail time, so they can dry out and get the real help they need for their addiction, which we've lost a lot of that.
I totally agree. We got to do that. We are out of time. Thank you so much for the call. Thanks for all the calls. Another incredible discussion of policy right here on the show that talk about the local issues that you really care about. Wait, no, that's Lycus. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.